Hey guys, welcome back to Vitality Live. I'm here with the international man of mystery, Mark Tosques. He's a man of many. Mark has been friends with us for a long time now here at Vitality. He's one of our favorite patients. He's a wealth of knowledge, and today we are going to talk a bunch of things. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about air. We're going to talk about water. All things that are super important to your health and to the health of our environment and and how that impacts everything we do, right? So we're gonna get deep into the subject of food and performance and health with Mark Tosques. So Mark works over at PowerWatch. Mark, why don't you give us a little bit quick background?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on air.
Yeah,
Sean. Thank you to Kevin as well. I appreciate being on the Vitality Live Facebook cast. And myself, I'm an athletic coach. I've been an athletic coach for 20 years. My specialty is endurance sports. I run the PowerWatts West Island Center out of Club Mansfield in Point Claire. And I work with runners as well. Runners, duathletes, triathletes, everything that kind of goes with endurance sports. So over the years, as I was learning different training techniques, learning different nutrition techniques, I kind of really wanted to dive into the things that end up being most important. And it kind of led me a bit astray from what I had initially learned. And the thing that it led me to is to really emphasize on quality, different food quality, air quality, water quality. So we're going to talk about these things today.
Yeah, so quality is important. And over the last few years, we're seeing a shift back towards quality. It's fascinating. Something I enjoy is micro brews, and we're seeing this amazing shift back towards craftsmanship. And
Quebec is a leader in that.
Quebec is the leader. Quebec's a leader in a lot of things. Actually, what we're going to talk about now is local sources or some amazing things that we have right here at our doorstep that you guys can implement into your everyday lives. So
before we go there, let me just ask you a question, Sean. What did the elephant say to the naked man?
What did he say? You got me, Mark. What did he say?
How do you breathe out of that thing?
That's awesome.
Air is a very important thing to consider. And I know we're going to talk about nutrition a bit later, but I just wanted to start by talking a bit about air. Because people talk a lot about nutrition. Sometimes they micromanage their nutrition, thinking about all these little pieces when they don't think about the bigger picture. And the most important thing that you guys can think about is the air that you breathe, actually. You breathe continuously throughout the day, every day. Another example is when you're at night in bed, you're sleeping for more or less 7-8 hours straight in your bedroom, and you're breathing. And you're not eating during that time, you're not drinking during that time, you're breathing. But the air that you breathe becomes very important. So what we have going on in the background, I don't know if you guys can hear it, so I brought in my personal air filter, and I wanted to show you guys this because it's a small filter that is actually the industry leader right now. So this is called an Austin air filter. It's a Healthmate Junior. And this bad boy, if you get one of them, the filter that's in there will filter all of the air in your room.
What's the square footage? Yeah.
And so that one's good for a bedroom. If you wanted to do like the entire living room area, for example, they have a bigger version of it. But this guy, if you close your bedroom door and you turn that filter on.
Look who it is.
Well, we have a special guest here. Kevin, how are you, Kevin?
Sorry, guys. Kevin, didn't cut you off. I forgot my watch.
You forgot your watch.
Yeah, have a good show.
Kevin he just wants to breathe some of our good air.
Yeah, exactly. So we turned that filter on just before the show started, so that helped to improve the air quality in here right now. So the Austin air filter, you can easily get one of those off of their website or off of Amazon.
Guys, we'll provide all the links today in the show notes. So we're gonna have all the different websites there. You can find this information or find these tools that. And so a quick question: how often do you have to replace the filters on that?
You replace the filter once every 5 years.
Once every 5 years.
So that one has a brand new filter in it, and I've had it 4 or 6 years now, and I just replaced the filter recently.
That's awesome. What does one of those bad boys run you?
So that will depend on which one you get. Okay. So that's called the Healthmate Junior. So the Healthmate Junior it's probably going to be around $500 or $600.
Okay.
They have bigger ones if you have more square footage. They have smaller ones. They have ones specific for babies' bedrooms. They have ones specific for larger houses.
That's amazing. So what does it remove? What does the filter remove?
Well, so basically it removes anything, I forget the exact figures, but it removes anything in your air that's circulating that's more than 0.3 microns in size. So that's
pretty tiny.
Itty bitty. So all those dust mites that might be floating around in your air, despite the fact that you do your best to, say, clean your bedroom and keep a clean air environment in your bedroom, you never know what kind of allergens can be in the air.
Well, do you actually know a lot of the dust in our house? Do you know what it is?
Skin.
It's actually us, right?
We're breathing in our own skin.
We're breathing in our own skin.
That sounds wonderful.
Isn't it crazy? But literally, all the cells that we have, they're replicating, they're renewing, which is, again, why we're going to come back to food and water and air. So all these things, we're changing over with time, and that dust in our house is actually skin. And if you have any pets, it's their skin. It's the more people in the house, the more skin there is.
Yeah, exactly. The more skin there is around. And my wife is she's not like totally allergic, but she's a bit sensitive to pollen, for example. So during pollen season, throw that bad boy on and she sleeps without a problem. If we didn't turn it on, then her nose would get blocked and she sleeps through her mouth all night, which is less than ideal.
That sounds gross. I know, Jen. It is kind of gross, but it's so true. It's us evolving and replicating and healing and changing our cells over, which is kind of fascinating. But so I just wanted to say what Mark said is so true. Oxygen, air is one of the most important things we have. I know we've talked on here about some breathing techniques to improve your oxygenation capacity. So some of the most powerful drugs in the world are available to you free of charge in the form of oxygen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the form of sleep, which is another really huge one. So having this in your room will help you sleep better, will help your cells repair, will help them heal, will help you recover faster if you're an athlete. It's so important, the quality of air.
It's actually shocking the difference when you walk into a room where we've had the filter on for, say, an hour. You to close the door, put the filter on for an hour, then you walk in that room, and it's just shocking. You feel like it's almost like country air, when you walk in there.
Do you know of any way, Mark? I know this is kind of a curveball. Do you know of any way of testing your air quality at home? Is there any device that you know of?
Well, I've actually researched a couple of ways of doing it because I was worried at one point. So where I live, there's an indoor parking garage. So I was actually worried that some of the carbon monoxide and other pollutants were actually getting into our house, because I found my breath quality was actually lower when we moved into the new place. So I explored a couple different options. Yeah. I haven't found a simple at-home one.
Okay.
It would have been.
We'll keep looking. If you guys know of any ways of testing air quality, that'd be awesome. We'd love to hear from you. We like sharing. We like learning from you just as much. So. So air, so important,
that's
right?
Air, yeah, really important, and don't take it for granted. It's all over the place. It's all around you, so you just breathe and you don't think about it. But just like you don't take your food for granted, just like you don't take your sleep or your fitness for granted, don't take your air for granted. Yeah. Step it up. Get an air filter, some kind of air filtration system, and believe me, you will feel the difference. It makes a tremendous difference.
Oh yeah, we are so connected to the world, to the universe, to our environment, more so than we ever even consciously think about, right? So the air you breathe, right? Our atmosphere. So we got to treat our world with respect. We got to treat our environment with respect. And this is a simple way of improving the air quality so that you can have better health, better vitality, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, what are we talking about next?
Next thing. So we dealt with air. Yeah. The next thing that's really important that sometimes people take for granted as well, more so than food, is water. So the water quality, so we're very, very lucky, especially here in Canada, that we have such good water delivery mechanisms where we have big water filtration plants.
There's Angela, says hi.
We have big water filtration plants, and that sends water through pipes to our house, and then within the pipes of our own house out throughout our tap. Mm-hmm. So we're very lucky to have all of that.
Yeah,
however,
access to clean water, right?
Yes.
We're fortunate, but
the water that comes out is not necessarily the same quality of water that we would have had, say, thousands of years ago, before we had different types of pollutants in the environment. And also the pipes that the water is going in, there could be different compounds that go from the pipes into the water, leach into the water, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So Mark, how do you filter your water?
Well, I happen to filter my water. Thanks for asking, Sean. I happen to filter my water with an Aqua water filter. It's the first, and I'm pretty excited about this one. I've had it for a while, but it's the first desktop reverse osmosis water filter. So we have it in the background here.
What does reverse osmosis mean?
So reverse osmosis, well, first of all, the water filtration process is a 4-step process. So there's 2 pre-filters that remove like soots and sands in case any of that ends up in your water, because that would plug the reverse osmosis filter.
Yep.
Then the reverse osmosis filter, the water actually has to go through a semi-permeable membrane that, and it's based on the amount of concentration of, let's say, particles on one side of the filter compared to on the other side. So as the water goes through the reverse osmosis filter, it actually pulls the particles out of the water and just leaves the pure filtered water as a result. And then after that, it goes through a 4th filtration process that removes any leftover volatile organic compounds that may have passed through the reverse osmosis filter. So it's a tremendous filter, and it's a countertop version. I had been looking for like 10 years for different filtration systems, but all of them involved putting it underneath my sink. So more recently, the Aqua system came out, and can we see it on there?
I'm going to show you
Yes.
guys. I'm going to place and then we're going to let it do its... So this is the Aqua True.
This is the Aqua and if we put it sideways, we could see in the back, this is where we put the water from the tap. And the water from the tap then gets filtered into the front right here.
You want to show the filters?
Sure, and we can take a look at the filters. So if we just lift this up, you guys can see that we have our multiple filters. So this is the first and the second filtration process. This is a pre-filter and a carbon filter. The carbon filter here, for example, is what you'd have in your Brita water filter, but it wouldn't also have the pre-filter and the other filtration processes. This is the reverse osmosis filter, and this is the volatile organic compound filter. That's after the reverse osmosis process. And all these 3 filters, they're actually good. The reverse osmosis filter is good for about 2 years, and these other ones are good for a year.
So what does one of these systems run you?
And so you guys can get one of these systems. You'd have to order it from the U.S. So it's about $250, $260 U.S. So about $400 Canadian with shipping. And you can order one on the Aqua website, and they even have a promotion. If you use the promo code SAVE100, I think you can actually save $100 on it. I got an email about that one recently. So it's really worthwhile. So I'm just going to pour some water into the tank in the back. And I think it came unplugged, so could you just plug it back in there, Sean? Boom. So, and now it realized that there's water in the rear tank. And now the process of filtration is going to start, and that's going to give us some super clean and fresh water in just a moment.
So while that's happening, again, what we want to talk about. So these things we're talking about quality, right? Quality is so important to your overall health, your well-being, your vitality. So we talked about air. If you're just tuning in now, we talked about air quality. We showed an air filter. Now we're on to water quality. Again, most of the things that we can do, you and I, on a daily basis to improve our health are very, very simple, right? But done consistently, done daily, they offer the best results possible. So again, the most important drugs that you can use in your life, and it's kind of an oxymoron because they're not even drugs, are oxygen, water, sleep, and the quality of your food, which we're going to dive into a little bit now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to drink some of that water here in a sec. We're just letting it filter. It's funny, we're doing these kind of Mark Tosques' favorite gadgets. It kind of reminds me of Oprah. Doesn't Oprah have her favorite things?
Yeah, Oprah's favorite things.
I wish we could give you all this kind of stuff, but we will provide the links so you guys can see them.
Yeah, you guys can check out all that stuff.
Yeah. So what are we doing? What are we talking about now?
So now, if we move next on to food, the piece that I wanted to actually talk about is the quality of your meat first.
Yes.
So I brought some little friends along with us here. So we have our friendly cow. This is a dairy cow, actually. We're going to talk about that in just a sec. So we have our cow. We have our sheep. This is Fluffy the sheep. So I brought Fluffy along. and this one very little. This one is a little goat. And the reason I mention those three together is these are ruminant species. So, which means that these animals are herbivorous and they digest their foods via fermentation. So why does that matter? It matters because nature designed these animals to eat grass, different types of grasses, different types of herbs, and then they have a very intricate digestive system that can actually convert this grass into the animal that you see. The meat, the fat, the energy that the animal has, that's all coming from grass. And the amazing thing about that is we humans, we absolutely cannot eat grass. Our digestive tract is not as complex as the digestive system of these animals that allow them to digest grass. So they eat something that we cannot eat. And not only that, the beauty about grass is all that grass needs as an input to grow is sunlight and water. Mm-hmm. So water comes from the rain, the sunlight, we always have sun every day. Yeah. So the sun and the water grow the grass. And then you put these animals on that grass, and then they eat the grass. So effectively, they're converting sunlight, they're converting water into foods that we can eat.
Amazing. Yeah.
The process is absolutely fascinating. The farm that I work with very much for cow, for beef, is called Briley Farm. So Briley Farm, it's in Thurso, Quebec.
Thurso, right.
So that's right near Montebello. It's kind of a little bit outside Gatineau. It's in the Ottawa-Gatineau area. And the reason I mention that is because the farmer there, Brian and Lise, these two are at the cutting edge. They're at the cutting edge of beef production in Quebec. And what's amazing is the cutting edge these days in beef production is actually moving back
to what we used to do.
To natural systems. So Brian has the only inputs into his system is he gives the cattle some water and he gives them some salt because that's what they need. But then everything else, it's just the sunlight grows the grass and then he manages where the animals walk onto the grass.
Fascinating, right?
And so yeah, like years ago, like for example, the herds of bison, there used to be herds of 25 million bison that would roam the plains of North America. They would go from one place to the other. They would eat all the grass in one particular area and then move on to the next place, move on to the next place. So they would move south for half the year. They would move north for half the year.
So for all our viewers, what's the difference between, let's say, this system, which is, the way it's supposed to be, with the way it's kind of gone in North America over the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah, so I mean, it was many years ago, kind of in the 70s and the 80s, that kind of things kind of took a bit of a U-turn. But conventional meat production, rather than allow the cows or whatever herbivorous animal to roam outside and just eat the grass, and then your job as a farmer is to manage the grass as opposed to grow the animal grows itself. Instead, the animal lives indoors, and food from the outside, usually corn or soybeans, are brought to the animal and the animal eats them. Yeah. So unfortunately the animal gets no sunlight, it doesn't get any fresh air, it doesn't get the same level of social interaction with the other animals, and the biggest problem for a herbivorous animal, when you feed them a grain like corn, their body, since it works as a fermentation process, what happens when you ferment a grain or when you ferment something that has a lot of carbohydrates or sugar in it, it turns into alcohol. So unfortunately, these animals end up with, in their digestive tracts, high levels of alcohol, and that it's kind of somewhat poisoning them from the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Their bodies are not designed to be eating that kind of food, so as a consequence, the animals have to get a lot of medical treatment, and a lot of those medical interventions that are done to allow the cows to stay alive end up in your food.
So they affect the quality of meat, right? So
yeah, and it just breaks my heart because, like I'm telling you, if you go to Briley Farm and you spend some time with Brian and Lise, my wife and I went there. I've been going there for 5 years. Brian spent 2 hours with us, and he took us all around his farm, and he showed us how incredible these animals are, how amazing a cow is. And he shows us, like, when you're with Brian, it's amazing. Like most people look at some grass and they're like, oh yeah, look, there's grass. And Brian's like, oh my God, look at that grass. Look, I can see some hickory in this grass. I can see this, I can see that. And he's super excited about it because the process that he's doing is allowing new types of grasses to grow that are going to better nourish his animals. And he cares so much about his animals, and that's what another thing you got to think about is what was the life of your animal that you're eating like? Like, did they fulfill their purpose? And the purpose of a cow, it's an amazing animal. Their purpose is to eat that grass. They're converted into meat and fat, but also then they walk around and their manure goes back down into the ground, and that spreads fertility. So the purpose of a cow in life, it's to spread fertility. So if you take a cow and you put it inside a building somewhere and you feed it corn, and then all their manure actually gets shipped out in big trucks to go somewhere else, like, that is not allowing the cow to fulfill its purpose in life.
There's two great, just sorry to jump in there, Mark. There's two amazing documentaries which are worth watching. We'll link to them. One is called Food Inc., so it explains a bit about this process. And then a new one I just watched recently, which was released in 2018, is called The Magic Pill. And they're amazing, amazing documentaries which will explain a little more of exactly this process that we're talking about. So we're fortunate enough here in Montreal and in Quebec to have one of the leading cow producers for this grass-fed beef.
Yeah, he's at the cutting edge.
He's at the cutting edge, right here in our backyard.
Yeah,
so
it's really amazing. I had the pleasure actually of attending a farm conference where he invited one of the world leaders in what's called mob grazing, Ian Mitchell Innes, from South Africa. So I had the pleasure of actually attending that conference, and it was just amazing to hear what the world leader was talking about and how that system is being applied at Briley Farm right now. And if you want to make a difference in the lives of animals and in your own health, so specifically say the lives of cattle, giving them better lives, you go check out Briley Farm, and you buy meat from them. You could buy quarter cows, you could buy cuts, individual cuts if you want, and you're literally helping create a better world and a better local economy, ecosystem. Exactly.
Ecosystem. So one of the things we preach here at Vitality, and Mark does it with his clients, is take an active role in your health. Okay, take an active role in your life, and be more conscious of your choices. So, like Mark said, it's the choice we make to fuel our body with respect to the air we breathe, with the water we drink, with the foods that we choose. Well, it goes deeper than that, right? So you have to consciously then look, okay, what is it? How is the food that I need to nourish my body, how is that being raised? How is that being, what happens? What's going on in their lives? How is that impacting the environment, right? Because we're all here, for the good of the planet, hopefully, and we're all here to evolve and educate and pass on our knowledge. So these things you need to do, these decisions, it's more than just opening your fridge, right? So that's what we try and teach you guys, that you need to understand the impact at every level of where your food comes from, because that has such an importance on how you then go about your everyday life, right? And how you, like, the quality of food affects so many physiological actions of your body. It's insane. It affects everything, right? So it's so important. So Mark, he loves this stuff, and I love this stuff, and we read about it, and we learn about it, and now we can help you guys read about it and learn about it.
And I'd really encourage you guys, to go and visit a farm or visit some farmers. If going to a farm is too big of a stretch, go to a farmer's market. There's a farmer's market every weekend in St. Anne de Bellevue.
Right here.
Right in the backyard. And it starts, so right now it's an indoor market. It's from 10 to 1 o'clock every Saturday indoors. But starting in May, so in a couple of weeks, it's outdoors from 10 to 2. And go there and just talk to the farmers and talk to the people that are producing the food. So you guys, if you come to Clinic Vitality and you see Sean and you see Kevin, you trust these guys to help you restore balance in your body via chiropractic, osteopathic techniques and everything. So you have your physical therapist. But it's just as important to have your farmer, to have the person that produces the food for you, and to know that person and have a connection with that person. And you'll see how amazing these people are. They just want to produce the best food possible on a small scale to deliver to local people. And you could be one of those people that gets involved in that process.
So normally we try and keep this show to a half hour, but this is an exciting one. We have some exciting things we want to do. So I'm gonna.
So we'll get on top
we
of
could
that,
talk
I
for
guess.
hours. Literally, we could talk for hours on the subject, and we will be back. Mark's going to be back on multiple occasions because there's so many things that we love talking about, and but we're gonna shift focus. So these were the animals. So know your farmer, know where your food comes, know how they're raised.
Yeah,
because
care about the animal.
Care about the animal, right?
They're
Give
beautiful
thanks,
animals.
Right?
They're amazing animals.
Give thanks, right?
Yeah.
This is there's again we can get into there's a whole spiritual level on all this stuff as well. But we're going to talk about another really cool thing. We're going to talk about local.
So
This is amazing, right?
it also so happens that in Quebec, so we have this right here. In Quebec, we also happen to have one of the Canadian leaders in bread production.
I'm going to show you guys.
And this is from Boulanger Desrosiers.
Yeah.
And Mr. Desrosiers,
Dan Desrosiers.
Dan Desrosiers, he is a specialist in sourdough breads.
So this is in Vaudreuil, right?
Yes, it is in Vaudreuil.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's drop-off points in several different areas, and it's available in Vaudreuil as well. And now this particular bread, I wanted to bring it and show you guys, because this is called einkorn bread. So einkorn is the first wheat that was ever domesticated many, many thousands of years ago. And so it's an ancient grain. So this really embodies what bread first was for human beings, because now bread has really evolved a lot over time.
So Mark, you mean that's different from my white bread that I can buy?
Oh yes, yes,
kidding.
it's very different. It is very different.
The Wonder
indeed.
Bread? You mean Wonder Bread's
Yeah.
good?
Yeah. And so once you try a bread like this, so this is the original bread. And Dan actually had to
Work his way
rediscover
back, right?
the process of how to actually create a loaf of einkorn bread using the sourdough process. So what the sourdough process means is instead of adding yeast to leaven the bread, he actually creates sourdough over the course of many weeks, many months, many years by adding water and adding more flour to a process that then creates the sourdough. So it's the natural bacteria, yeast that end up in there.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And then he adds that to the einkorn bread, to the einkorn wheat. The einkorn wheat, if I'm not mistaken, is grown in Manitoba. So there's a farmer in Manitoba that specializes in the growth of einkorn wheat because it's very, very rare. Very rare. And Dan happened to rediscover how to create a beautiful loaf of bread like this using the sourdough process. So this is like gold. This is gold. I'm telling you, this bread is so exciting, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know this information.
What we think of bread is unfortunately is like I joked about, that Wonder Bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many people over the years have developed intolerances to the Wonder Bread? You're basically
It's not much bread in there.
Yeah, it's so processed and refined and changed over time that you are literally, you have no way of, first of all, breaking down the wheat structure that they've created or the gluten structure that it. So you're basically eating glue, right? That's essentially what you're eating, and then that wreaks havoc on your system, creates inflammation as your gut tries to figure out what to do with that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and these ancient grains, right?
The sourdough process actually helps to break
it
down the glutens in the bread to make them more digestible. Now, if someone has a severe gluten intolerance,
That's a separate thing.
They might not be able to consume this bread. But after a couple conversations with Dan, he explained that many of his clients actually have certain levels of gluten sensitivity, and they are able to consume this particular einkorn bread because the structure. The protein structures of the gluten in here are so different.
Yeah, what's the
than
difference
modern wheats.
actually? It's approximately.
So there's the protein structure sequence is substantially shorter.
14 or 16.
It's 14, yeah.
Yeah,
It's 14
versus
as opposed
46
yeah,
or-
exactly. Upwards of 50. So you can think about the level of complexity. We won't go into too many details about it, but
Just imagine trying to break down 50 plus
versus
or break
something
down
that's
10 to 14 or whatever. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot easier to eat your way through 14 than through 50.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? So
and it was so exciting. So I met Dan several times, but the first time I met him, he hadn't created this bread yet. But then at the St. Anne de Bellevue market in the last few years, I show up one time and he had an einkorn bread. And I got so excited, I was going crazy. But the amazing thing is, he was more excited than I was to tell me the whole process that he did in order to recreate this bread. And I was so excited, my wife was embarrassed at the level of excitement that I was showing about the bread. So we have the bread. So I wanted you guys to know that, again, we have a bread producer here locally,
in Vaudreuil,
that is like a leader in the industry, and it's a more healthful bread as a consequence.
We'll link to Boulanger des Rosiers, and Dan actually does. If you're really interested in this stuff, which Mark and I were probably going to go do a course with him, he actually teaches people about the sourdough starter kits and about the process of making bread. Mark's he's dabbled in it. My wife has too. In my fridge, I have a living, breathing sourdough starter that we feed each week, and my wife makes a couple loaves every couple weeks, and it's insane the difference between doing that, knowing the process, knowing what goes into making something like this, and then understanding how your body then, working with that process, can then pull the nutrients it needs from it, and it's insane. Again, we are so connected to this world via bacteria and cultures and sunlight and the air we breathe and the water we drink and the food we consume. It's sad to kind of turn your head to it, right? Because we can get so much from what we have here locally. It's impressive. So,
it's amazing.
So what should we get into now, Mark?
And so bear with us. There's just one more thing too.
One more thing
I wanted to show you guys. So if we're going to eat some bread of this quality,
we're going to
drink some water of this quality,
we're going to break bread together.
Yeah. What do we need to put on it? We need to put some butter on it. So what I want to do with Sean right now is we're actually going to churn our own butter right here on the air. So I got some high quality organic cream from Horizon Nature. So Horizon Nature is actually, it's like a group of, it's kind of a distribution company that has a group of farmers that provide organic cream. And so this is the organic cream, and it's 40% organic cream. And the nice thing about it is the only ingredient is cream. Now, if you go to the supermarket and try to do what Sean and I are about to do, if you buy a cream and you look at the ingredients, the sad reality is the only ingredient is not cream. There's like 6 or 7 ingredients. It's crazy. I can't believe it's even called cream. It should be criminal. This is cream. This is pure cream. So what we're going to do is we're going to churn this cream into butter using the magic jar that I brought.
It's awesome.
So I'll get started on this.
I have a collection of these mason jars at home.
Oh, perfect. So if you're lucky, you can turn one of them into a magic jar and churn your own butter.
Done.
So we're going to take some of this cream. So you can see it's nice and thick. So we're going to put it into the jar just like this. So I'm not going to fill it up all the way. And then all we're going to do is shake it. So we are going to make butter shaken as opposed to churned.
Shaken, not stirred.
It's shaken, not stirred, exactly. So while I'm shaking this...
Yeah. So this is actually your very own shake weight.
Yeah. The nice thing I like about this is you get fresh butter and you get really well-developed forearm veins from doing this as well. So now I'm shaking it. Okay, so now we had cream before.
How long does this process take?
Not long at all. So as I'm shaking it, so now I'll just show you guys inside the jar. So look at that. So it's already become whipped cream. So amazing, except instead of whipped, it's shaken. So quickly, that's how quickly it becomes whipped cream, or shaken cream in this case. And so now we're just going to keep shaking it.
You want me to take over?
Sure, you can take over. And what's going to slowly happen is the globules of fat are going to come together, and then they're going to separate from what's called the buttermilk. So if you ever had a buttermilk crepe, for example, it's a byproduct of the butter creation process. So as we keep shaking this bad boy, the fats come together and slowly separate from the buttermilk. And then I keep the buttermilk aside. You can use it as a great way to make buckwheat crepes, for example. It goes really well with some buttermilk in there. So I'll actually stop you there, Sean. So we can start to see bit by bit. So now we're at a different level of whip.
Awesome.
Okay, so you guys can see that. And now we'll continue. And now the shaking just needs to get a little more vigorous. And then...
So about how long?
Oh, just a couple minutes.
2 to 3, 5 minutes?
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, good. So you get your workout done while you're making your cream?
Yeah, exactly.
Or
You guys
sorry,
want to
your
work
butter.
the triceps? You can go up a little bit like this, you know. Go a little bit to the side as we shake this bad boy. So now again we can see a different level of separation occurring. So now we're very close to when the buttermilk is actually going to separate from the fat globules. And then that's going to make butter. Aaron, I'll let you take over that for a bit.
Awesome.
The next thing that I'm going to say is what makes butter really good is to have some salt on it. So I've brought some salt. This is the only type of salt that I use. It happens to be real salt. So real salt is a salt actually from North America. There's an ancient mine, now it's a salt mine. It used to be an ancient river or ancient lake that the water in it dissolved, leaving all these really high quality salt in it. And if you look at the salt, you can actually see it's not just plain white. There's all sorts of different little colors and bits like that in there. And that's extra levels of vitamins and minerals in there. So now, Sean used his chiropractic hand strength, and now we can see that separation has occurred. Okay? So I'm just going to give it a final little shake, and you guys can hear it too. So the buttermilk has separated. And then the nice thing about making butter yourself is then you can decide how much buttermilk you actually keep in the butter. So when you buy butter commercially, they have to remove a certain percentage of the buttermilk in order for it to legally be called butter, which I think is a good thing. Otherwise, you'd buy something that you thought was butter and it isn't. But if you want your butter to have, say, a more pungent taste to it, for example, or a slightly more sour taste, you can choose to keep a little bit more of the buttermilk in there. So let's see where we're at. Oh, yeah. So look, the magic jar has delivered. Okay, so now I have a milk bag. So I'm just going to pass this through the milk bag. So there's the buttermilk that came out. And what are we left?
Butter.
We're left with butter. Okay, so I'm just going to give this guy a little squeeze. And Sean, maybe you can cut us
all right,
a nice piece of bread there. And then we'll take this out. So I like to leave quite a bit of buttermilk in there so it has more pungent flavor. So there's the butter. Notice how yellow it is. You know, so that you could tell the quality of butter just based on how yellow it is. That's an indication of the quality of the butter. So we'll put the butter there.
I'm gonna give a quick shout out to Dan's daughter. Is actually she's a practice member here at Vitality, and she is an amazing chef with her own business called La Comida Montreal. So she does meal delivery service. She's been on Chop Canada, so it runs in the family. So Dan, he's a phenomenal baker, and his daughter is a phenomenal chef. So you can check her out too. We'll link to her.
Definitely, her foods are really impressive. So I'm just filling up some water for us because we want to make sure we stay hydrated when we eat our bread. So maybe Sean, just move over so you guys can see how the water just comes out. You just press the button, boom, it comes out. So this was just freshly filtered. So remember, we filtered it, we poured it in right at the start. So there's some water for you. And so now we have our butter, we have our bread, we have our very high quality salt.
Can we see that right there?
Yeah, can you guys see all that combo? Oh yeah, very nice.
All right, Mark, do the honors.
So let's put some butter on the bread. All right.
That looks unreal.
Yeah. So there we go. So we'll get some of that on there and just give it a little sprinkle of salt, depending on how much salt you like. I'm good. I love the end piece. I'm really excited.
I left that for
I'm
you.
like my mother. My mother loves the end piece.
So I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I like salt. So.
Oh, I like salt too. So we salt this bad boy. Cheers to you. Cheers to you.
Cheers. Thanks for guys. As always, thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions or comments,
oh man, this is so good.
Leave them below.
It's just amazing.
That's unbelievable.
Nice sip of water to help it down. Cheers to you, Sean. Cheers to the audience. Cheers to Clinic Vitality.
Huge thanks to Mark Tosques. You guys can find him Facebook, Power Watts. He's all over the place. He has a website, marktosques.com. You got to check out his video of him barefoot running. It's amazing. He looks like a gazelle out there.
And you can just message me on Facebook or send me an email if you had any specific questions and stuff.
Or if you need to get in touch with him, we can put you in touch with him. Thank you so much, Mark, for coming. We're gonna have Mark back again because I know Mark and I, when we're together, we just talk about all things, not only food but quality of life things. So he's a wealth of knowledge. I learn so much from him every day I'm with him, and I'm glad we could share him with you guys. If you have any questions or comments, do not hesitate. You can write them here on Facebook. Get in touch with us at our website, vitalitytherapy.ca. We're going to continue to keep doing some fun videos like this. The farmers market, let's recap. We got the farmers market, we got Briley Farms, we have 2 videos we want you to check out.
Boulangerie des Rosiers, very important.
Boulangerie des Rosiers. Food Inc. is a documentary. The Magic Pills, another amazing documentary.
We have Austin Air Filters.
Austin Air Filters.
And we have the Aqua water filtration system, countertop version.
Have a wonderful weekend. This is tons of fun. Making butter, churning butter with Mark, and we will be back next week. Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.